Hello, and thank you for tuning into the Woke is Broke podcast. Our top stories today are the ones I am contractually obligated to talk about. President Biden went to the G7 summit this past week, and some interesting things actually happened. Go through a highlight here. President Biden took a photo with Gary Busey. He took it up the ass from Putin. He lost his temper with a CNN reporter.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident changing behavior. What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating a fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin framed?
If you don't understand that, you're in your own business.
And he lost his mind with another reporter.
And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. They actually, well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do.
Powerful stuff from our elected president. In other news, CNN, speaking of which, has taken a bit of a hit this week in some truly, amusing ways, to say the least. Brian Stelter, I mean, you might recognize him as the walking advertisement for birth control. He took a series of calls from, viewers over on C-SPAN recently, and they had some pointed things to say to him, to say the least.
Yes, I'd like to ask Brian to, on national television, admit he and his network are a bunch of liars about Donald Trump.
This is Kevin in Princeton, Indiana. Good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Stelter is the biggest minister of misinformation I have ever heard, and I'm a news junkie. He made the statement just a few minutes ago that he is all the stories are always evolving. Yeah, his stories absolutely evolve.
Brian Stelter.
Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Savannah, Georgia. Rick, good morning. You're next.
Yes, I was just wondering if you still feel like Michael Avenatti is the greatest thing in the world and should run for president of the United States.
That's
and
funny.
my suggestion is whatever CNN says, do the opposite and you'll be fine.
Aurora, Indiana. This is Robert. Good morning. You're on with Brian Stelter.
You know, CNN is just something it's a joke. It's a joke. This guy tells more lies, and Fox gives more news than CNN does in their
What lie? What lie did I tell?
2 years.
I gotta say it was friggin' amazing though to see that roach just sit there and squirm under the lights, as everyone's like calling in and bashing. It was friggin' awesome. What else is awesome? His viewership is down 72% this year since January. He's not the only one losing viewers over there on CNN. CNN itself is losing its viewership. It is down 45% from where it was last year, which is probably attributable to. Well, again, Brian Stelter asking real tough journalistic questions to Jen Psaki. Questions like this.
Busy summer ahead, infrastructure, election reform. What does the press get wrong when covering Biden's agenda? When you watch the news, when you read the news, what do you think we get wrong?
Or maybe, it's because they don't have Trump to kick around anymore and they keep trying to go on after DeSantis or Tucker Carlson or whatever scapegoat they can find to try and amuse themselves with. Speaking of amuse themselves, there is a CNN employee who amused himself in some rather amusing ways, you might say, who recently made a return. Jeffrey Toobin, he's officially off his suspension from CNN. If you don't remember why he was suspended a few months back, Well, CNN actually did a good job covering that, so we don't have to reiterate it.
In October, you were on a Zoom call with your colleagues from the New Yorker magazine. Everyone took a break for several minutes, during which time you were caught masturbating on camera. You were subsequently fired from that job after 27 years of working there. And you, since then, have been on leave from CNN. Do I have all that right?
You got it all right, sad to say.
Okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
To quote Jay Leno,
was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, obviously, I wasn't thinking very well or very much, and it was something that was inexplicable to me. I think one point, I wouldn't exactly say in my defense, because nothing is really in my defense.
Is it okay if I masturbate in front of you now? One thing that did kind of get me about his confession, so to speak, was how he said it surprised him too, you know? It surprised him too. We kind of wanted a little bit more clarification, so fortunately we were able to obtain an exclusive audio clip of Jeffrey Toobin elaborating on just what it was he meant in this off-camera interview.
I've been watching myself on the video camera, and the camera me is doing things I don't approve of.
Now, in all seriousness, I do have some sympathy for Jeffrey Toobin. I imagine it's uncomfortable to be called out in the spotlight in such a manner over such an embarrassing thing, especially when he, well, self-described an out-of-body experience, essentially, where he just kind of left his being and his body started doing things that he subconsciously didn't choose to do, that he had no control over the situation. And I have sympathy for him, especially because, I mean, that's something that I've certainly struggled with. And then I turned 12. Last I checked, he's probably in his 50s. The guy can't keep his hand out of his pants at work, and they're back to do it. Are you out of freaking minds? Good God. It never ceases to amaze me over at CNN how low their standards will get. You know, I mean, honestly, to be fair, CNN achieves miracles every night. They achieve a biological miracle. If you tune in, you will see guys like Don Lemon, like Chris Cuomo, actually orally defecate out of their mouths. It should be biologically impossible, and yet they achieve it every freaking night. Good Lord, what is happening to news? What is happening? That is something I am honestly just asking myself every freaking day. Never ceases to amaze me, the kind of crap going on out there.
I wonder what they sell.
AIDS.
No reason to film, just filming stuff for reasons.
Thank you, Manic Musings. You know, speaking of equity, I suppose that is something I did want to delve into a little bit. You know, it's no secret that racism, right? It's a word, it has a meaning, or it used to, and it's important. Words matter, right? Words matter, their definitions matter. And yet, somehow, racism, an important word with an important meaning, has become bankrupted by race-baiting morons out there who use it to mean anyone and everyone under the sun who doesn't agree with them, who doesn't see eye to eye with them, for whatever the topic might be. And that is a damn shame. And then they realized that the term racism is starting to lose some of its muster, so they switched their ideology. They didn't switch their ideology, they switched their words, right? They shifted over to white supremacists. That's the word you keep hearing over and over and over again today. Not so much racist, though that's still used frequently, it's white supremacist, right? President Biden's pick for Attorney General, Merrick Garland, going out and saying white supremacy is the new major threat. Biden going out and saying his top generals are telling him white supremacy is the greatest threat to America. Blah, 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 blah. right? It's white supremacy, white supremacy. And now that is a term that has started to lose its meaning. That is a term that they are effectively bankrupting. So that now it has no meaning. And while I'd like to say that's a damn shame, I'm actually kind of grateful. Because now that that's a term that has no meaning, it's a term I can use to, well, apply to anything that I don't like. In particular, it lets me do this. Black Lives Matter. Now, if you're just talking about the idea, right? Do Black Lives matter? Of course Black Lives matter. All lives matter. I'm not aware of anyone out there making an argument against that. If you're talking about the organization Black Lives Matter, I can think of no better example of white supremacy than Black Lives Matter, shockingly enough. You know, we went over the stats a little bit last week when we were talking about anti-Asian hate crimes and whatnot. We talked about the fact that from 2014 to 2019, any city that saw one or more Black Lives Matter protests saw a decrease in police homicides from 15 to 20%, right? That resulted in about 300 fewer deaths as a result of police shootings, right? What it also saw was an increase in homicides upwards of 10%, resulting anywhere from 1,000 to 6,000 additional deaths, right? In these cities where these protests were happening from 2014 to 2019. 2020 hits. Homicides nationally go up 30%, right? So there is a direct correlation between where this organization sets stakes, where it lays down its great patriotic protests. There's a direct line of connection between that and a rise in crime and a rise in homicide. And shockingly enough, the rise in homicide seems to affect primarily black people. You know what else? The billions of dollars in property damages, well, that seemed to affect black business owners and black civilians living in these neighborhoods. It seemed to affect black neighborhoods in a negative way. When you go in there and you set cars on fire and you loot and you burn police stations to the ground and then you defund the police and the crime goes up and people end up dead, right? Black Lives Matter? Doesn't really seem to, not to this organization, which is ironic considering the phrase that they coined. But it's not ironic at all when you get right down to it. When you get right down to what BLM is, at the end of the day, it's a freaking Ponzi scheme, okay? The leaders are self-described Marxists, and you might remember one of them, Patrisse Cullors, right? She got into hot waters recently for purchasing 4 multi-million-dollar homes, right? But why is she doing that? Oh, it's all in the name of equality. It's all in the name of sticking it to the white man, even though she's moving into neighborhoods that are predominantly white and extremely wealthy. And if you call her out on it, she'll just say it's right-wing slander from white supremacists who are trying to discredit her. She made a fortune off the backs of black Americans and people who agree with the notion of Black Lives Mattering, right? Black Lives Matter, the organization, took in $90 million in 2020. $90 million. And she's out there buying multi-million-dollar houses and saying it's all in the name of equality. Are you out of your freaking mind? How stupid do you think people are? You know, we are reaching a point where we are starting to see some genuine pushback. People genuinely rising to the call and standing up to this bullshit. And I'm not just talking about Black Lives Matter, all right, the organization. I'm talking about equity. I'm talking about critical race theory. Take this father in Illinois, for instance. He had some really passionate and powerful words to say in regards to critical race theory. Ugh.
When you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to, that's pretty much, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time up, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees. No mom, no dad in the house. Worked my way through college. Sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? Not one white person ever came to me and said, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, oh, you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know, the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I worked for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit there and tell me this lie of critical race theory? This the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing I'm gonna say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. If y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense, that's exactly what's about to happen. Lastly, we are talking about our kids. We are talking about our children. What's so sickening about me, I love the Discovery Channel. You will see that on the Discovery Channel, animals will put their lives on the line to protect their children from danger. Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to the moral of the story. When it all comes down to it, the person that's going to be suffering from this, the ones going to be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are. But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
Absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct on this. 100%, 150%. But you know, the thing that gets me is that you might have missed it. Towards the end of that video, there's a woman in the background saying, "Stop shouting." Why? Why shouldn't he be shouting? Everyone in that room should be shouting. Critical race theory shouldn't just get you offended. It should make you angry, right? This video that we're about to show you breaks down what critical race theory is at the end of the day. When you take away all the euphemisms and all the polite talk and all the lipstick that they try to put on it, this is what critical race theory is at the end of the day.
White people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, oh, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually, instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist. So I just want y'all to know that up front.
If that video didn't set a fire in your stomach, if the idea that your kids are being taught to hate themselves, to hate you, to hate each other because of the color of their skin, if that doesn't get you angry, then I don't know what will. You know, I'll be honest, I am 25 years old now. I'm single, I do not have kids. But that still brings something out of me that I am not overly proud of, in anger. And it's important not to let anger fester inside, absolutely. But there is justified anger. And the idea that the children that I want, that I plan on having, that family that I plan on starting, that stands to be ripped apart by a bill of goods being fed to my kids, a bill of goods that says equality of opportunity is bullshit, that the only way to achieve a racist-free society is through equity of outcome, right? Even if that means that you're an Asian student with great grades and awesome accolades, but you are denied the opportunity to go to a great school because there are too many Asian kids there already. Even if that means at the man or woman who's worked in the private sector for 20, 30 years and dedicated their life to a company and has busted their butt and put in the work and is finally offered an opportunity to rise up, to have a promotion, for them to be sat down by their boss and say, yeah, you earned this position, but we don't have enough Hispanics in this position right now. We don't have enough black people in this position right now. Sorry, we can't give it to you. That is outrageous. It's not outrageous, it's egregious. And it's racist, and it is ugly in every sense of the word. And that is what's being fed to children. And good on that man, good on that father in Illinois standing up to this crap and taking some truth to actual power. It's time there are more people doing that. And we are seeing more people do that. We are starting to see parents and teachers coming together to vote out the school boards who are bringing this racist bilge into our education system. We are starting to see coalitions being formed to run advertisements against woke companies, woke politicians. We are starting to see people entering the entertainment sphere with not just necessarily hardcore conservative values, but just good, all-American values. Values that used to unite us. Values that used to inspire us. Values that we aspired to have and to perpetuate to our kids, to our neighbors, to our friends. The idea of living up to your potential, being the best that you possibly can be. That is what rises us up out of poverty. That is what rises us up out of mediocrity. That is what brings real fulfillment and real joy. Not hatred, not division, not persecution. Not saying that you aren't where you want to be in your life because of him or her or them. Right? Right? That it's all the white man's fault. Right? Again, I am a straight white male Christian. Right? Explain to me how the hell my existence, how me filming a YouTube video in a garage in a house that I rent with two other guys, right? Tell me how that has oppressed you. Tell me how that has stopped you from graduating high school or going on to college. Tell me how that has forced you to commit yourself to a life of crime or mediocrity or failure. Tell me how that has made you give up on your potential and give up on yourself. I get that it is an unpopular truth. It is an unpopular truth to suggest that the majority of the situations you face in your life are directly attributable to your own actions. Yes, people are born into shitty circumstances sometimes. And sometimes even later on in life, we are dealt a bad hand. We're dealt a bad hand. And that sucks. And maybe that is outside of our control. But what is not outside of our control is our ability to do something about it. To, as cliche as it might sound, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. I don't even want to say that, really. Just making a freaking choice. Everything in this life is a choice. Greatness is a choice. Happiness is a choice. Fulfillment is a choice. And it is a choice that only you can make. And you've got to stop blaming everyone else and vilifying everyone else because of the color of their skin and saying that your life is miserable because of somebody else's happiness. It's a lie. It is an absolute fundamental lie that is egregious, that is corroding everything that has made our nation great. It's eating away at our society. It's poisoning our children. And it's time that we stand up to that. It is time we nip the shit in the bud, pardon my language, here and now. Because if we don't, there is only one inevitable outcome that could possibly be achieved through critical race theory and legislation regarding equity. A race war. You know, I never thought that I would seriously suggest a race war being an actual possibility. Yet, here we are. You know, I grew up, I went through elementary school, middle school, high school, college, got my associate's degree. In all that time, in all those years, in all that education, I think I met one person who identified themselves as being a racist. And this was in elementary school, mind you. And now, from what I understand, the guy's grown out of it. He's working with handicapped children now, right? But the idea that all of my life experience, all of those thousands of kids, black, white, yellow, Hispanic, red, whatever, right? all those thousands of kids I went to school with, all those hundreds of kids I went to class with and sat down in the lunchroom with and broke bread with, that all of that was a lie, that I was oppressing them, that my parents were oppressing those minorities, that the reason that some of the kids in the school that I went to didn't find success outside of school is because of me, is because of my existence and because of the color of my skin. What a perfect recipe to be a perfectly miserable person the rest of your life. You want to talk about joy, you want to talk about fulfillment, you want to talk about the American ideal? Let's start talking about accountability. Let's start talking about our individual potential, individual conscience, individualism. That is what this bill of goods that's being sold through critical race theory seeks to strip not just our children, but all of us of. Our individualism, all of the things that make us unique and special. They want to chisel that away. They want to encourage our kids. They want to turn our children into little yes men and yes women who are more than happy to give away those fundamental values, those great things that make them who they are, to just give it all up so that they can be reduced to nothing more than a number on a page or a box in a chart, right? Black, white, men, woman, gay, straight, atheist, Catholic. That those words, that checklist, right? That is what determines your value. That is what determines your individual worth. And if you have the right combination of those things, well, hell, that means you are a victim, but it also means that you are a victim entitled to things. Entitled to things. Nobody is entitled to a damn thing in this life. And I'm sick and tired of that. I'm sick and damn tired of the entitlement, of the arrogance, of the victim blaming. Or rather, the idea that you are inherently a victim, regardless of your background, regardless of your personal decisions. I am tired of the lack of accountability. And that should matter. Accountability should matter. The truth, right? And individualism. Those things matter. And that's something a lot of people seem to have forgotten. That really is a sad thing to see. But I am hopeful. I am hopeful. I know that there is good going on out there. I know that there are good people at work, striving their best, to be their best, to inspire others to do the same, and to combat this, there's just no other word for it, evil. This evil that is spreading through our society like a wildfire right now. In the media, in movies, on TV, on the radio, on the internet, in our politics, in our schools. It's everywhere. But there are good people standing up, and that does give me hope. And I'm going to, like I said, continue to do my best to be that hope, to inspire that hope, and to do whatever I can to fight back. And I hope you do too. That's kind of the point of this whole show. You know, among other things, like being politically incorrect, having off-color jokes. But speaking of off-color jokes, we do actually have an interview tonight with Jaketastic. Again, back by popular demand, mind you. You know, for those of you who forgot, Jaketastic is a liberal and a Democrat. And again, the most politically incorrect dude has the most off-color jokes you'll ever hear in your life. This guy, he's wild. And he's also why I do the righty-tighty-lefty segments. If any of you have seen that, we release those on Thursday. Me and him just driving around and having conversations about all sorts of things. You have a conservative perspective, a liberal perspective, and it's really just a bunch of randomness, but it's a good time, and I think you'd enjoy it. But in any event, let's roll into that interview with Jaketastic right now. Hope you enjoy it. All right, so the coral reef, break that down.
No, we saw it on the map. I remember as a kid, they drew this shit out. The coral reef was like the size of motherfucking Australia. To scale. It set it on the map. Science. And now you look at one now, and it's like, it went from being the size of like a big ass, you know, presidential pin you would get for like Trump 2021 because you need to fit a lot of shit on there. They have to be this big. To the size of a time.
You know what that means? You need to get a bigger map.
Oh, yeah, all we have to do is just blow this shit up and we'll be fine. Not the Earth, just the map.
Yeah.
What? But come on, man. We have that much power to just do that. We did that. We as a species, you could just be like, yup, yup. No, that was a natural disaster. The typhoons weren't our problem. And then you realize there is a Cobra Commander, and there is a Weather Dominator, and that's what's been f***ing all this shit up, and we're screwed.
The Jewish space laser that's setting fire to California.
You know, man.
Dude,
it's... Can that be the one that we confirmed this year?
I find
Can that be the
conspiracy
one
theories funny as hell. Like, you ever seen Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Like, he says some funny shit. He's absolutely insane, but he's funny, you know?
I'm pretty sure he was on Trump's speed dial there for a minute. They were golfing buddies or something.
Oh my god.
No, it's fucking real. I'm pretty sure they know each
The
other.
secret VP.
They have like a special handshake where it's like grabbing it by the nuts.
I don't know,
like
I just...
devil horns.
I guess I just have a hard time being convinced that... I mean, like I said, climate change is like so broad of a term or whatever. I mean...
Oh yeah, I mean...
Like, yeah, the Earth's been going up and down in temperature since its creation, but when you've only been like recording weather patterns for like a little over 100 years, it's hard to say for a planet that's billions of years old that we are the cause of like typhoons and
well, you know, I think it's egotistical to not think that we're not a partial cause of certain things.
I wouldn't say we're not a partial cause, but like the lead cause. And the other thing
no,
is...
maybe not the lead. You know, I mean, dude, the world, like, this Texas bullshit is literally an example of how fucking devastatingly unpredictable the
yeah,
world
it was like like 120 years was the last time they had like a blizzard out in Texas of that size.
I mean, but then again, it's like, you know...
It's like once in a generation kind of thing.
I mean, it happened. They had a weird ice storm in D.C. that was like, it was like maybe right in the early Obama or something like that. City shut the f*** down. Like they
when like the Jersey boardwalk was really ripped up.
Yeah, it was all f***ed up. It was so weird, and I think even like the I think the river froze over here, and it like froze over. It was the craziest shit ever.
Like thawing out from the ocean.
Probably, yeah. Probably some Encino Man situation. The windmill shit, I know people get shitty with the windmill stuff, but there are places in the United States that produce so much f***ing wind that it would be retarded not to f***ing put windmills there, because it would be a waste of money.
The biggest problem with like
you could
solar
power your whole
panels
city.
and windmill energy is the energy output, comparatively speaking, to like nuclear energy and oil energy is it's not as much, and it's usually not as reliable. Because like Texas, the windmills were freezing out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if they. I don't know. Do they?
I don't know if it's a
weatherize those giant windmills? I don't know.
I think they were supposed to. I don't know if it's a coating. I don't know if it's. I don't know. There's probably.
I don't even
some,
know if it's like a possibility.
From my understanding, too, a lot of them were outside of maintenance dates too.
Yeah.
From my understanding, so it's like they were f***ed up, but I could be very wrong. But
you can't blame them for not weatherizing shit because this hasn't happened in 120 fucking years.
I know, but you got to think it's like.
I think there's a good argument to make to not do it now. I mean, if we're
talking stuff in general, or?
of weatherizing your shit now, because again, this is like once in a generation and a half kind of.
Maybe, but it's like, what would happen next? It's like, what are the odds that it's a snowstorm? It's probably going to be an earthquake. You know, it'll be something ridiculous. You know,
fire and brimstone.
You know, if anything, people. I recommend people watch Kong versus Godzilla versus Kong, because that's what we need to be prepping for. Because if we're ready for that bullshit,
It's a giant monkey and a dinosaur.
yeah, dude. If your building can tank a hit from a monkey with a battle axe, I'm not super worried about, you know, your energy efficiency.
That's how we disaster-proof shit. Just build our cities to withstand the attacks of a giant gorilla.
Right? I don't know. Well, I mean, whatever
Mecha
we're gonna
Godzilla.
do, I don't know what the solution is to make this product that lives forever, but I'm fairly certain it's a mixture of Betty White and
uranium,
and uranium, and maybe Keith Richards' sperm or blood or some shit if he's got any left.
Dude, Betty White, she has been old for like 60 years. And she's
Can you
still
imagine that,
going.
like, most of your life you're an old
She's funny, though.
Oh,
Okay.
God, yeah. Well, you'd have to be.
It's like
Old sucks.
Broke my heart. Clarice Leachman died not too long ago.
Did she? I don't remember what
She was
in.
fucking old, too. Young Frankenstein. She's Frau Blucher.
Oh,
And,
shit.
She was in History of the World. She was also the grandma on Malcolm in the Middle. She was really good in that.
Don't you love it when somebody lifts off like 5 or 6 things you either haven't seen or haven't seen in 30 years, and you're like, yeah, totally. They're my favorite. It's not last never.
She's like one of those actresses that like makes an impression in the role. That
I know.
Even if they haven't been in a lot. Like,
but I mean, even like people remember
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Joan Rivers.
Like,
people remember Joan
Rivers
Rivers because she was nuts, and actually her stand-up pretty good back in the day for her time.
I haven't seen her shit.
Yeah, I mean that's how she was funny. It was always about ex-wives, ex-husbands and shit, and I believe in. But I mean, it was always always stuff that I liked, especially for the time frame, and you don't see a lot of women comedians. And they I feel like she had to do whatever she had to do to keep going. But
one of my favorite ones that I heard on the radio, it's like, me and my husband have been married for 25 years, and like 2 people in the audience clapped. It's like, oh, I see that you know him.
The last 2, I finally found them. Could finally kill these motherfuckers. God, that's crazy. It'd be a great way to find like old Nazis and shit. Clarence was a wonderful man. Clap if you liked him. Sniper rifles are ready to fire.
That's what The Marvelous Miss Maisel was actually about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our episode for today. That being said, we certainly hope you enjoy it. We certainly hope that you enjoy this show. It does take a lot of time and work to do what small amount we can do on a weekly basis. And, I mean, we do recognize that this is the second to last episode for the season. That being said, we are not going away. Not by any means. So definitely tune into our next episode. We're going to have some serious announcements about when Season 2 is going to be dropping and the things that we're going to be doing in between, along with a few other things. But in any event, I will say, stay safe, America. Stay informed, and hold on to that thing in you that makes you you. Don't give that up. As cliche as it might sound, individualism, individual character, individual conscience, those are the things that matter now more than they ever have. They're the light that's going to lead us out of this dark tunnel. You are the light that's going to lead us out of this dark tunnel. And you matter. We'll catch you next time.